What in the world just happened? Inside these conversations of word salad, the conversations leave you drained. You'll be left with an actual headache. You'll spend hours, even days, obsessing over the argument. You'll feel if you exhausted all of your emotional energy to accomplish absolutely nothing. You will have a million pre-planned arguments in your head, ready to respond to all unaddressed points that you couldn't keep up with. You will feel the need to defend yourself. You'll try to come up with a diplomatic solution that evenly distributes the blame and therefore gives you both a chance to apologize and make up. But at the end, you'll find that you're the only one apologizing. Have you been trapped on the merry-go-round of a toxic relationship and word salad or circular conversations? However you want to describe it, you're on a merry-go-round of continuing to have the same conversation, the same argument over and over and over again. Some of you had the same conversation and the same argument for 5, 10, 20 years, and he's never let it go. There's one time I was talking to a lady, a client that I had, and she had had this piece held over her head for years. Years and years, she'd had this one person held over his head, a previous relationship that he'd been in that was his fiance, that he always compared her to the previous fiance. And it was held over her head for years, always bringing it up, always putting it back to her, always making her feel less than and belittled over and over and over again. The hard part was once she found out and she talked to his sister, she actually found out he was never even engaged to this woman. It was something he would fabricate. But every single time that they'd have an argument, he would always bring it back up. There would be this circular aspect of, I'm going to continue to do this over and over and over again to control you, to convince you to keep trying, and to manipulate you and your emotions. So we're going to talk a little bit about circular reasoning. We're going to talk a little bit about this idea of word salad. If you haven't read already, I would highly recommend Psychopath Free. Psychopath Free is a really good book just in showing up and having you understand more about narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, and how they talk, how they interact, how they respond. And so today we're going to be looking into a couple of the traits here for word salad. I'm going to read a little bit, kind of go back and forth just because I want to share a little bit different experience and a perspective and maybe give you some insight into stuff that you haven't read yet. So when we talk about word salad, when they're feeling threatened or bored, the narcissist will use what's called word salad in an attempt to keep your mind occupied. Basically, it's a conversation from hell. They aren't actually saying anything at all. They're just talking at you. Before you can even respond to one outrageous statement, they are already on to the next. You'll be left with your head spinning, and study the warning signs and disengage before damage can be done. So we're going to talk about the 9 warning signs today inside of this piece of word salad. Now, the first one sounds very similar because I wanted to identify this piece of circular conversations. So number 1 is circular conversations. You think you work something out, only to begin discovering it again in 2 minutes. And it's like they never said a word around the first time. They'll begin reciting all the same tired garbage, ignoring any legitimate arguments you may have provided just moments ago. If something is going to be resolved, it will be on their terms. With narcissists, the same issues will come up over and over again. Why are they so friendly with their exes again? Why are they suddenly not paying any attention to you? Why do they sound so eager to get off the phone? And every time you bring up these issues, it's as if you've never had the argument in the past. You get sucked back in, only to feel crazy and high maintenance when they decide, I'm sick of arguing about this. It's just a merry-go-round. Now, this happens so much inside the toxic relationship with the word salad. Circular reasoning is one of the biggest pieces. Like the circular conversations that happen over and over and over again, you bring it up and then it's done. Then you bring it up, done. Bring it up, done. And you never get to a conclusion. You never get to something that finishes. Instead, it continues on over and over and over again. Number 2, bringing up your past wrongdoings and ignoring their own. I'm pretty sure everybody can just identify with this instantly, but I'm going to read it anyways. If you point out something nasty they're doing, like ignoring you or cheating, he'll mention something totally unrelated from the past that you've done wrong. Oftentimes this is straw man tactic of like, let me bring up something that I can defeat, that I have power over you. Okay. Did you used to drink too much? Well, then their cheating really isn't that bad compared to your drinking problem. Were you late on your first date 2 years ago? Well, then you can't complain about them ignoring you for 3 days straight. And God forbid you bring up any of their wrongdoings, then you are a bitter lunatic with a list of grievances. Narcissists are hypocrites, right? They're going to make sure that you're spending so much time defending something that you did, maybe even that you did wrong in the past, and they don't count. Okay, hypocritical and like, I have no standard and you have all the standards. I'm going to make you jump through hoops and I don't have any hoops I need to jump through because I'm perfect. So I don't need to do anything. And so you'll see this happen over and over and over inside this piece of word salad, confusing you, manipulating you, and keeping you stuck. All right, number 3, condescending and patronizing tone. This is one of the pieces that I have to work on the most. Not just necessarily these 2 aspects of tone, but just tone in general. It's easy for my emotions and my frustrations to come out of my tone. So even though my words are changing, my thoughts are changing, my ideas are changing, sometimes my tone is still reverting back to old habits. So this is the piece that I have to work on. Through the entire conversation, they will have this calm, cool demeanor. It's almost as if they're mocking you, gauging your reactions to see how much further he can push you. Then you finally reach this, and when you finally react emotionally, that's when they'll tell you to calm down, raise their eyebrows, smirk, or feign disappointment. The whole point of word salad is to make you unhinged and thereby give them the upper hand. Please remember, conversations are competitions, just like anything else with a narcissist. Did you hear that? Conversations are competition. He's always looking at this conversation here. How can I win? How can I get it over you? How can I make sure that I'm in control of you? Right? That's the big piece. And so you need to understand the conversation you're having with him isn't this healthy dialogue. It is this fight. It is this piece of, can he win or will he lose? He's not going to lose, so he'll change the rules so he can always win over you. But this whole piece of making sure that he has this higher than, this condescending, this kind of putting you down tone, you're going to see this over and over inside of word salad. Now, number 4. Accusing you of doing things that they themselves are doing. In heated arguments, psychopaths have no shame. They will begin labeling you with their own horrible qualities. It goes beyond projection because most people project unknowingly. Narcissists know that they're smearing you with their own flaws and they're seeking a reaction. After all, how can you not react to such blatant hypocrisy? Again, going back to this piece of, you're cheating. Well, no, I'm not. You're the one that just cheated. Nope, you're cheating. Going back to, you're abusive. No, I'm not abusive. Nope, you're abusive. You're jealous. You're reactive. And the list goes on and on. You're shutting down when he's been closed off for years. You'll see this happen so much where he will project onto you the things that he's doing. It's not just projecting saying, oh, I think you're doing this, or oh, this is what's happening, and it's not happening with him. No, you actively see this. So like, you see him do something, you see how he acts, see how he interacts, and then he says, you're not doing this. Like, you can't open up to him emotionally and with your feelings. You can't share these things. And then he comes to you and he's like, you know, I just feel like you don't provide a safe place for me to open up emotionally. I just don't feel like this is a good relationship because you won't do that for me. And you're like, what are you talking about? I try to talk to you about my emotions all the time. You'll see this a lot. All right, let's move on. Number 5. Multiple personas. Through the course of word salad conversation, you're likely to experience a variety of personalities. Now, we're not talking about schizophrenia here, okay? It's sort of like good cop, bad cop, demented cop, stalker cop, scary cop, baby cop. If you're pulling away, sick of their abuse and lies, they'll invoke a glimpse of the idealization phase, a little torture to lure you back in with empty promises. If that doesn't work, suddenly they're starting insulting the things once they've idealized. You're left wondering who you're even talking to because their personas are imploding as they struggle to regain control. Our beloved administrator Victoria summed this up perfectly. The devil itself has unleashed a desperate fit of fury after being recognized, twisting, turning, writhing, spewing, flattering, sparkling, vomiting. All of a sudden, when the narcissist starts to realize that he's losing control over you, everything is on the table. Everything spirals out to a place of, what do I need to do? Is his piece that also ties back for a narcissist of instant gratification. So you're crying and upset. He walks up to you, and for once, he actually gives you a hug. But the problem is it doesn't shut off the tears and the frustration, the sadness within the next 30 seconds. So then he starts to get annoyed at you that you're even crying. And that annoyance then starts coming out in frustration. And that only makes you cry more. And then that comes out in anger. And that piece of anger gets frustrated for him because he's like, this isn't shutting her up. This isn't stopping this problem. Then he starts to stonewall. Then he checks out. Then he leaves. Then you're even more distraught. Then he comes back and he just ignores that it ever happened so that he doesn't feel bad about it and so that he can sweep it under the rug. Then he treats you lovingly for a moment. So you're like, oh, okay, maybe everything's better. It's a cycle that a lot of times will happen, confusing you and leaving you really frustrated. When he has this piece of multiple personas, how he's actually demonstrating and coming across to you will continue to shift and change over and over and over inside this conversation, when especially he's losing control over you. Number 6, the eternal victim. Somehow their cheating and lying will always lead back to a conversation about abuse in the past or a crazy ex. You'll end up feeling bad for them, even when they've done something horribly wrong. You will use it as an opportunity to bond with them over their supposed complex feelings. And once they've successfully diverted your attention, everything will go back to the way it was. No bonding or deep spiritual connection whatsoever. Narcissists cry abuse, but in the end, you are the only one being abused. I was botching that end. So the piece of always having the victim. So there would be different things that would happen in our lives, but then there would be big blowups, big things that would happen, and quote unquote attacks from the outside of our relationship. So then that would bond my wife and I together, fighting that attack, fighting that thing that was happening. And so when that's going on, that bonds us together. So we feel better in the moment, but I haven't changed anything. It just cycles back. It's just a temporary distraction. Number 7, you begin explaining basic human emotions. You find yourself explaining things like empathy and feelings and being nice. Normal adults do not need to be taught the golden rules from kindergarten. You are not the first person who is tempted to see good in them, and you will not be the last. You think to yourself, if they can just understand why I'm hurt, then they'll stop doing it. But they won't. Newsflash, please hear that. They wouldn't have hurt you in the first place if they were a decent human being. The worst part is they pretend to be decent when you first meet, sucking you in with a sweet, caring persona. They know how to be good and kind, but they find it boring because it's not controlling, it's not manipulating over you. All right, number 8, excuses. Everyone messes up now and then, but the narcissist recites excuses more often than they actually follow through with promises. Their actions never match up with their words. You are disappointed so frequently that you feel relieved when they do something halfway decent. They condition you to become grateful for mediocre treatment. Oftentimes, this is even breadcrumbing. Like, he's going to give you small morsels from the table, and you're like, this is amazing, when it's just craps. Like, it's scraps that he's giving you just like he'd give to a dog or to a rat. And so you need to understand that narcissists will give you the smallest portion, and it makes you feel like it's amazing because he's been starving you for such a long period of time. He'll do this emotionally, he'll do this with your feelings, he'll do this sexually, he'll do this all different ways to be able to control and manipulate you so you can keep coming back and keep begging for more. All right, last one here. Number 9. What in the world just happened? Inside these conversations of word salad, the conversations leave you drained. You'll be left with an actual headache. You'll spend hours, even days, obsessing over the argument. You'll feel if you exhausted all of your emotional energy to accomplish absolutely nothing. You will have a million pre-planned arguments in your head, ready to respond to all unaddressed points that you couldn't keep up with. You will feel the need to defend yourself. You'll try to come up with a diplomatic solution that evenly distributes the blame and therefore gives you both a chance to apologize and make up. But at the end, you'll find that you're the only one apologizing. We see this over and over and over. Inside of this, are you experiencing any of these? If you've experienced any of these 9, I want you to count up how many you saw and leave that comment. So if it's all 9, put a 9. If it's 7, put a 7. If it's 3, put a 3. Just put in the chat what you've actually experienced in this aspect of word salad. And have you consider if that number is there and that number is high on the scale, like a 5 or more, you might be dealing with a narcissist. I'm not saying he's a narcissist, you might. End of the day, the label doesn't matter. What matters is how is he actually demonstrating and showing to you honor, love, dignity, respect, faithfulness, truth. Like if he's not showing these, it doesn't matter if he's a narcissist or if he's just an asshole. What matters is you need to start taking a look and reevaluating your life and your relationship to how this is actually moving forward. If I can help you, if you're a woman trapped in a toxic relationship and you're moving forward wanting freedom, go to rawmotivationscoaching.com. If you've listened to this today and you're a guy that has done this and you realize you have narcissistic traits, go to rawmotivations.com. Click on the one-on-ones and love to be able to talk to you and see how I can help you move forward. I do partner with a couple men that I help actually work through the narcissistic traits to stand back in their power and certainty of being real men. Now, if you're a woman listening to that little segment and you think, oh, let me get mine in there, don't bother. If you have to force him to come to me, I don't want to even talk to him. I don't want to waste my time. I want guys who are actually seeing this, identifying this, and want change, not the ones that are professing change to you just to keep the relationship. They're a waste of time, and they don't do the work required for them to heal, grow, change, and develop. If you're a woman trapped in a toxic relationship trying to find freedom, go to rawmotivationscoaching.com today.